The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this program do not represent the groups that we are affiliated with. Listener discretion is advised. This show is uncensored.
This show is brought to you by the Serious Cybernetics Corporation. New genuine people personalities for your robots? What can go wrong?
The thing you ought to know, I'm feeling very depressed.
Alright, so I'm Mike Toller.
I'm Brett Beater.
And here we're with David. I always butcher your last name.
Gutowsky.
Thank you. And we are going to be talking about internet freedom from McHenry County again. Now, those of you who have followed us through Season 1 and into Season 2 here, you'll be like, again? We never saw the first one. That's because I never got around to finishing it, and it was never published, and now it's dated. My fault. I'm sorry. By the way, hello everyone. We now have a camera for Season 2.
That will probably change cameras.
Yeah.
Change, things around a little bit.
This one's kind of potato quality, but we'll look at upgrading those.
Don't worry, you'll be able to see our ugly mugs in perfect crystal clear 64K TV.
64K?
Yeah, 64K. Oh, no, I've already updated it. I've gone past 8K, past 16K. I just went straight to 64K.
We're going to 64K.
Yep.
Well, if you're going to go that far, why not go 40K? The only true God Emperor answer.
Then we might as well stop at 42.
So, anyways.
More resolution for the resolution gods.
There you go. More blood for the blood gods, more skulls for the skull throne.
Also, I'm going to add into this, too, that since our last interview, me and Mike decided to help David with this internet freedom for McHenry County, along with some other people. So we're going to get right down into it and give us the basic spiel on IFMC, please.
Internet Freedom from McHenry County is a volunteer community interest group. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to advocate for the creation and expansion of public infrastructure, fiber optics. It's not new technology, but it is new infrastructure, and we're trying to get this to everyone. And the idea is we would have it be open infrastructure, and that means that we, the people, would own the infrastructure itself, but it would actually, the services we would be getting from like television to phone or internet would be provided by private providers, a number of them. So in effect, what we're actually doing is we're creating a free market, whereas today it's pretty much a duopoly or a monopoly in some places, or it doesn't even exist at all for some people.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely an issue up here in the great land of Wonder Tucky here. We've got technically three options: Comcast, AT&T, and Frontier. But in all actuality, we have one option if we want true broadband speeds.
At least the most cost-effective one would be Comcast in a lot of areas. It seems to be that in a lot of areas like Charter and all the cable companies are the most effective until fiber comes into the area. Then they are no longer the most cost-effective way. Like, for example, AT&T offers their fiber at $80. And so per megabyte, that's actually a pretty good deal compared to Comcast, where if you want 100 megabits, you're going to pay like $100. So you're paying a little bit more, but you also don't even get the upload. So sure, you have choices, but is it really a choice when you're trying to vote with your pocketbook?
Right, definitely. And I mean, when you talk about upload and download being synchronous or equal, and you're not going to get that with cable, mostly because of the way that provisioning has to happen. They have to reserve a certain subsect of that bandwidth in order to provide you that cable.
Exactly.
Yeah, Richmond, we only got stuck with one, so we're stuck with Charter.
My condolences.
Yeah.
And supposedly in the village of Richmond, there is Frontier, but Frontier is letting their infrastructure just pretty much fall apart. They're having some serious financial issues that I don't foresee it, and I don't think the Wall Street analysts will foresee any improvement in infrastructure from Frontier. Well, I mean, for all intents and purposes across the nation, Frontier actually isn't that bad here, but in the state of New York, it's horrendous to the point to where the state of New York has gotten involved in trying to get them to actually improve just their basic wired service, their basic telephone service, because they're neglecting their wired service intensely.
So, how do we go about achieving this goal? The goal is to get the fiber in and have it open up to all these different companies, be it national conglomerates or local small business guys that are starting up their own ISP. How do we go about this? What do we need to do?
Torches and pitchforks. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a possibility.
What we've been doing, us here in the room and the other volunteers with Internet Freedom, is we've been trying to educate the public on this. The public is wholly unaware that this is anything that we can actually do anything about, that the elected officials or our government can even do anything about. And so our purpose is to try to educate them so we can eventually get them to get involved, the elected officials to actually get involved and actually say, hey, we should do something about this. This is something that needs to be done. In all intents and purposes, we're not asking for what some people consider to be handouts or it to be government funded, but we do need to have some collateral of some sort. So a lot of municipal broadband in a lot of these companies or these government municipal entities across the nation, they've actually been able to do it with no additional taxes. They've done it through interdepartmental loans. They've done it through revenue bonds and a few other methods through grants or from the federal government. But in all intents and purposes, we can do that same model. We can have our elected officials, each area get involved. For example, Mike lives in McHenry Township.
Yep.
And I live in Greenwood Township. And where do you?
City of Richmond.
In the village of Richmond. Each of these areas that they want this public infrastructure and they want to have a free open market, they're going to have to put their own tax dollar collateral up and say, hey, we want this, but we have to put together a business plan. We have to put all this together. Most people would think, well, why do we even have to even talk about this? Why even talk about this at all? And my response to that is most people don't even think about how electricity is even delivered. When was the last time you ever thought about electricity? When was the last time you ever thought about water, for the most part? I mean, it doesn't come up as a utility. It doesn't come up that often. And so here we actually have new infrastructure. This is the time to get on the ground floor and get your input in and to make it what you want. And so the reason, instead of asking for a retail service like what Comcast and AT&T does, we're actually just saying we're just trying to create an infrastructure company, an infrastructure nonprofit cooperative, which the people that use it are the owners of it. And so eventually when all those bonds and all those loans are paid off, we actually get to see the benefits of the lower costs. And we get to actually see that instead of it being funneled off into the coffers of God knows where it goes.
So basically what we're getting at here is advocacy is the stage that we're at.
That's really where we're at. And that's how we do it. That's kind of the first steps, is we got to get our elected officials involved. And then we get further down the road where they're like, okay, we support this idea. We really want this. What do we need to do to help to make this happen? And so far, there's only been one elected official in the county. All the municipalities and all the the mayors, which isn't everybody, but there is one particular mayor in the city, and not in the city, but here in the county, and that is I think it's Mark Kelly from the city of Harvard. He is really gung-ho about this, and so is their city council. They're really interested in bringing fiber to their people, but like anything else, this is expensive infrastructure, but it's not like roads. I mean, it's not as expensive as roads. It doesn't need as much maintenance and doesn't have as much wear and tear, and so but the rest of them are all just kind of waiting and seeing what the people really want and what the people are willing to do. There's and at the county level, the county in general just has a tendency to think county and not countywide. And it's based on the type of conversations they have, the type of leadership the county provides. And I would like to see more if their leadership be countywide, and like to see them involved in economic development, but the county just hasn't done it yet.
So, what we need to get out this as the message to the people that are watching, all tens of watchers, viewers, I should say, is that you can help. You can get this going, but we need you to go talk to your locals, your local town, your local township, your village, your homeowners associations, all these different units of government, and in the case of homeowners associations, kind of like a pseudo-government, to go and advocate that they support this concept. If you want to be able to have better internet here in the county, this is how we can go about doing it. Right. One of the ways, in fact, one of the best ways that we can do it.
And one of your steps is go to ifmc.co, and you'll see up there they have frequently asked questions, sign up, get a speed test of your own internet, learn some more information about it, and there's even a link on how you can help. But the majority of it is going to be knocking on the doors of your village hall or your city hall or whatever it is you got, and asking them to get it for you.
Yeah, this is definitely the type of thing where it's boots on the ground that make the difference in the beginning. We won't get the attention of the local elected officials if there isn't enough people calling for it.
Yeah. I also want to case for people that don't know, McHenry County already has fiber optics available to them in the city of Woodstock in a limited area. The fiber runs, I'll let Dave explain. He knows exactly where it runs, so.
Yeah, he's better at this off the top of his head.
Thanks, guys.
So now we've put you on the spot, so you better be great.
So, yes, there is actually, we do have public-owned fiber optics here in the county. It's not a lot, but it pretty much starts down on Randall Road. You can trace it, Randall Road, all the way down to I-90, and the fiber optics will go straight up Randall Road, up to, I don't remember the road exactly, but it snakes over to 14 a little bit, goes through a residential area off Randall Road, and it goes straight up 14 to McHenry County College. And that's where it pretty much terminates. But then the county portion, because that portion from basically I-90 up to MCC is actually owned by one of two entities. It's owned by either Northern Illinois University's iFiber group, which is a not-for-profit group, and they actually own what is considered a middle-mile fiber company. And they own a ton of different fiber throughout Northern Illinois. And so what their objective is to just kind of bridge that city-to-city link type thing.
Right, so to explain the term middle mile, that comes from the terminology back in the day with phone systems and things like that, first mile and last mile. So your first mile would be directly from the distribution centers, that AT&T and things like that had, where they had all the major phone switches. And then your last mile was anything that went into the residential neighborhoods. So anything that was middle mile was long distance between those two things.
Yeah, that is correct. And so so just to continue on this, it goes from MCC up to the city of Woodstock, and it ends on the north side. It ends at Woodstock North High School, and it goes westward. It goes all the way to I don't know the wording especially, but Erickson Park, right there on 14, and that's where it ends. And it goes a little bit further south to an elementary school, a little bit south of 14, and there. And so there's the fiber that we have for the city of Woodstock is a good foundational fiber that actually can be built out for everyone in the city of Woodstock, for all businesses, all residents, and even the fire district. Most people don't know this, but the fire district actually isn't hooked up to the fiber because they couldn't afford it when it was being built. But however, District 200 schools, except Greenwood Elementary School, is not. They're part of District 200, but all the county buildings are hooked up. All the other District 200 schools are. The police department, the city of Woodstock is, and the emergency telephone board. And so that everybody's all hooked up, but no businesses are hooked up to it currently. The group that owns it, which is a government cooperative that owns it, I like to use the word the consortium. It's a really long name that they call themselves, and it's not a good acronym that I can actually say, so I tell people the consortium. But they own this fiber, and they're actually trying to get people hooked up to it. The unfortunate thing is for the cost to run that fiber is upon the business to run that fiber. It's not upon the consortium to build that fiber, it's upon the business. So like, for example, Internet Freedom's office, or my office, I guess, is right across the street from the old District 200 office, which is right there on Judge Street in downtown Woodstock. And so right across the street, I'm in the old District 200 annex on the second floor, and so I called up iFiber, and I asked them, I said, how much would it cost for me to run fiber across the street? And how much would monthly service be? They said it would cost at least $10,000 to run it across the street. So you would have to you probably have to go underneath the street for it, and he said it was going to cost $10,000 to run that fiber. Now, the fiber isn't the most expensive part. The actual material for the actual fiber itself isn't. It's the labor cost and going into the earth, the dirt, is actually what the most expensive part is. And then I asked them, I said, well, if I wanted to get gigabit internet, which is 1,000 megabits, they said it was going to be $1,200 a month. Now, that sounds a lot. That sounds like a lot. But for enterprise level service, for enterprise level gigabit service, that's actually pretty reasonable. But it's not great for a small business or for residential.
Yeah, that's actually not too bad as far as the prices I've seen out and about in my day job. As far as costs are concerned for gigabit fiber. But the big problem there is that there's no backing for that initial install, so you've got a major capital expense at the beginning, and then to get to be able to even get that data to you, and then when you're talking enterprise grade, everybody hears I could get gigabit from AT&T for about $80. I don't understand. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that gets involved in enterprise grade stuff. What's called service level agreements and things like that if they guarantee uptime and how the connection will be that you don't have in residential. That's why when you call and you complain to Comcast that my internet's down, they go, yeah, the whole neighborhood's down, and then hang up on you, because there's no guarantee on residential like that. If you want those guarantees, you gotta pay for it.
The more money you pay, the more uptime you're going to have.
To 6 nines, right?
Yeah.
And that is really critical. That's not only are we trying to advocate just for having the infrastructure for residents and small businesses. This actually, the fiber infrastructure, this public infrastructure, could be used for all kinds of enterprise level services. You would be able to get 5 nines with residential fiber service, no problem for the most part. There's no issue with that, especially if you put everything underground and you have all your redundancies and everything else. There's no issue with that. But the other thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that if you want better cellular service, let's talk about 5G for a little bit. So I've been reading a book that was written by Susan Crawford. She's an author, and she's from Harvard. And she wrote this really fantastic book, and I recommend everybody to read it. It's an easy read. have it right here, and it's, I don't know.
We got to pay the bills somehow. Hold that book up.
Hold that book up.
It's 245 pages, and it's pretty easy pages, and they showcase a lot of examples where entities or municipalities and cities and towns and townships have done fiber and how it's benefited them. But the one thing that she really talks about that I thought was really captivating for me is if we want 5G to be everywhere, fiber has to go everywhere. I mean, all wireless, good wireless that is. So if you want to do 4G or even 5G or any kind of wireless service, you pretty much have to have a stable connection to it. And fiber being unlimited bandwidth is a really great stable connection. So if we really want to get 5G, in some places they're talking about getting gigabit service for 5G. There's a lot of technical problems with running bandwidth that high for wireless. But if you want to get that high, you really need to have it in the neighborhoods pretty much 50 feet away or 1,000 feet away from the house with a direct line of sight. The only way you're going to get that is if you have fiber in the neighborhoods penetrating all the way to the houses and all the businesses. Otherwise, 5G just isn't going to come anywhere to those speeds.
And if you got fiber all the way into that area, you might as well just do fiber to the house anyways and stop relying on 5G.
Exactly. And, people talk about, well, 5G is going to be this great opening for competition, but it's really not. So anybody who gets to you first, anybody who gets to you first, let's just use Verizon as an example, since they supposedly have the most expansive network in America. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm just going to take at their word. That's what they have. But let's say they were to build fiber everywhere. They were to build fiber everywhere to be able to get those, a couple hundred megabits for your 5G. No other company is going to do that. They're not going to build another fiber line in your neighborhood because it's just ridiculous. It's not cost effective to do it that way. There isn't enough money in the marketplace for you to be able to do that. There's a lot of marketing hype around 5G, and 5G is actually a multitude of 4 different technologies, but it's not even a real standard yet either. So that's kind of a funny thing also. Internet Freedom from McHenry County is putting together kind of a 5G fact sheet, and you're going to find out that even the analysts and the experts are kind of saying, I don't think 5G is going to deliver what it's going to deliver. I don't know what it is, but I could even probably pull my phone up right here, and I have 4G on my phone, and I have Verizon, and it looks like I only have like 2 bars. And even though I can see through the window and I can see outside, I'm not getting great service down here either. 5G is not going to be able, especially the higher speeds, aren't going to be able to penetrate the walls at all. Wireless is if you ever have wireless in your house and you realize that you go through a couple walls, the performance degrades. Same thing is out there in the real world. Trees, humans, human beings, us, actually stop that wave and stop those wireless waves. So if we really want to bring competition, even 4G, or even wireless carriers, we need to have fiber everywhere to make it publicly accessible to be able to make this happen.
Most definitely. And to geek out a little bit more on that transmission stuff, the best insulator against transmission of radio waves is water. And what are most trees? What's the composition of most trees? Living trees?
Water.
What's the composition of most humans?
Wasser.
Yeah. You've got any sort of moisture or anything like that is going to significantly decrease the type of radio frequencies that are used in 5G.
Oh yeah, and what builds up on top of the antennas when the morning comes around? Dew.
I think it's a little bit too high for that.
Yeah. Well, I guess it would all depend on where they put it.
Yeah.
Because if you're down in a valley, it doesn't really matter.
You typically don't put the antennas down in the valley. You put them at the height of the valley.
Right. But if you're at the height of the valley, the people in the lower end of the valley ain't going to get it. Well, like I said, depending on how the line of sight works on it, too.
Line of sight works line of sight.
Right. Okay. What's the word I'm looking for? The conical projection of the antenna. How's that?
Right. But that's all taken into account with attenuation and positioning of the antenna.
Yeah.
I mean, the real limiting factor is just the frequency. There's only so much bandwidth you can pack into a radio wave.
Right.
And in all intents and purposes, that's what this is. These are radio waves and microwaves, off the radio spectrum. And just so everybody quite understands how the waves work, is that if you want waves to be able to penetrate better, they have to have lower frequency. But where you get range and you get penetration with your waves, lower frequency waves, you get less bandwidth. You get just pure less bandwidth. But if you want higher bandwidth, which is more energetic waves, here's the interesting thing is that it gets shorter range, and it gets more prone to issues of line of sight. And so it's I mean, sure, there's some really great technology we're doing. It's called MIMO. MIMO. And so that's a really thing that's going to be coming down for 5G. I think one of them was multiplexing, to be able to use multiple antennas at the same time and everything else. I can't remember the other two, but
these are technologies that already exist in Wi-Fi. Maybe not in your home Wi-Fi, but definitely in commercial applications of Wi-Fi that you see in stores and at your work and things like that. MIMO and multiplexing and everything else like that. That's why you get much better Wi-Fi signal at work than you do at home.
Exactly. And so, this is all really geeky stuff, but nonetheless, what it really means for the consumer is if we want to have competition and we want to have 5G and we want to win the race against our Chinese communists, we really need to have this infrastructure everywhere. There's a number I really loved. There's a person I like to quote regarding how much it would cost to run fiber door-to-door for the entire country. Jonathan Chambers comes to mind. He's a former FCC. I don't remember where in the FCC he was from, but his previous job was at the FCC, and now he does consulting with Connectex, who is just a consultant arm of some company. And what they like to do is they like to help rural cooperatives, electric cooperatives, implement fiber, because much like 100 years ago, the for-profit companies like AT&T and Comcast and everything else are not going to be building where the business case cannot be made at the profit levels they want. However, rural cooperatives, electric cooperatives, are filling that gap once again where these for-profit companies are failing to do. And so what they like to do is he likes to say that fiber optics is profitable down to 20 homes per square mile. What does that really look like? That kind of looks like Marengo Township. That's about the least dense area of McHenry County. Like Greenwood Township has about 80 unincorporated. Unincorporated Greenwood Township is about 80 homes per square mile. And of course, if you start talking about Crystal Lake, you're talking about 1,200 homes per square mile. So there's absolutely no reason. It is profitable. It's very profitable. The difference is that why AT&T and Comcast won't build to these places is because they can't get their profitability within 36 months. That's really where the big number is. That's where the big thing is. And that's where the big hang-up is because the shareholders of these companies, which are big institutions, they want to remain their profitability, and they just haven't been able to convince them. Verizon, with their files, was trying to do that a number of years ago, but the CEO really, at that time, I can't remember his name, but wanted to run files and started doing it, and the shareholders got really upset, and eventually he was ousted. He They stopped the Fios rollout and they stopped doing it. And the people that do have Fios, they're pretty happy with their service. They're pretty happy with it, with the Verizon Fios, and it provides the speeds, unlimited bandwidth, and it works really well and it's cost effective. But so all the major companies aren't doing this. But while I do kind of rattle on about these companies, they do have a really great, like AT&T has a really great nationwide fiber optic network for the businesses. They have a really great network for businesses, but they also have a decent wireless service as well. So they've done a lot of fantastic things for our nation and for us to be able to communicate and exchange ideas and do all these amazing things. But they don't deliver on their promises either.
Right, so basically, yet again, we are getting screwed by the quarterly profit return turnaround that you get from a lot of investors. That's what that drives the stock market and everything else like that nowadays, where the investors really want that quarterly profit. They want to see an increase in that ledger every quarter. And that doesn't allow for long-term investment for greater profit later.
No, it doesn't. What we're proposing is that we actually provide service to everyone, because we see that having service to everyone allows everybody the opportunity to get an education, to be able to do telehealth things, to be able to communicate cheaply and effectively, and do their schoolwork, and just a number of things that are just countless things you can read about on the internet.
List.
Huh?
I got the list in front of me.
Oh, what's?
The better internet infrastructure means more businesses setting up shop in our county, and in turn means more jobs for the county, and possibly lower property taxes because of a higher business tax base. Better internet infrastructure means better property values, with some studies showing fiber in the home can increase your home value by as much as adding a half bath. Better internet infrastructure means better opportunity for schools to access learning materials, that students will have internet access at home for their homework, and better internet infrastructure means better networking for emergency management, better response time, better coordination. Better.
Absolutely. I was talking to the chief of the Woodstock Fire and Rescue District, and he was saying absolutely fiber would be really great for his fire district, and he would be able to save money, which in turn would lower taxes.
So I'm going to go ahead and
You can keep going.
Bait a question on you.
Sure.
So, is it true that one of the good reasons why we should take this under control of ourselves is that every time that these large companies have been given money in order to upgrade infrastructure in the recent past, they have not done so, even though that's the whole reason they were given federal tax dollars in order to upgrade infrastructure?
Oh, but don't worry, they put up that new telephone pole to hold up those wires.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of evidence to support that a lot of programs throughout the last, I want to say 20, 30 years, where we've used tax dollars to basically give it to these companies to build these networks out. And they do in some degree or another, but what the difference is that they still own the networks. They still operate the networks. They're still monopolies. They still have one way or another us in a stranglehold. I have a book that, and I have it. My apologies for getting out of the. I have a book here that's written.
Hold it up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we got it on camera now.
And it's called The Book of Broken Promises, and $400 billion broadband scandal and free to net. And
I think a former girlfriend wrote a book about that. Book called that about me.
It's now it's your wife, right?
Well, see, no, there's no more broken promises. That's why she's my wife. It's a former girlfriend versus the current one. Anyways.
And on the cover we have a promised sports car, and what basically was delivered was a broken skateboard. And it's very true. And this one is written by Bruce Kistnick, who is a telecommunications analyst, and it's very detailed. But what it basically comes down to it is that throughout the last 20, 30 years, through deregulation and increased prices, they kept saying, hey, if you give us more money, we'll implement fiber, we'll connect more people, we'll do all these amazing things if you don't regulate it as hard and you allow us to raise our prices on call waiting or car ID and such things, which both of those things just are pennies on a dollar, just cost pennies on a dollar. But they were charging $5. I mean, I think I remember when I first got Verizon, because I was a T-Mobile customer for a long time, they were trying to pitch car ID for $5 a month. It only cost pennies on a dollar to deliver this, and so the profit margin on it is several thousand%.
That reminds me of when I was working at Radio Shack. You know, small parts, your resistors, your transistors. What does it cost you to go pick those up at the Radio Shack? About, what, 2 cents, 5 cents for a pack of 7 of them? Mm. You know how much they got that pack of 7 for?
Yeah.
Fractions.
Mm-hmm. And that's much in the same way what they did here. The telecommunications industry is a natural monopoly. It's a natural monopoly type system. And so what the amazing things about this type of economic endeavor is that the more customers you have, the lower cost per customer it is. So your entire objective is just to get everybody onto the network, everybody that you can onto it. And so at the end of the day, if you try to get everybody on it and you're trying to constantly just get more customers so you don't actually have to compete, that's a natural inclination towards a monopoly. So you can't really create a free market around this. No matter how much wireless you do or how much you think that there's going to be somebody who's going to have $100 million to invest in fiber and take that risk, it's not going to come. And so that's why the case for public infrastructure like this is really strong. And it makes sense to do it that way. So these companies on a regular basis, I mean, I think even last year for 2018, AT&T got like 40 billion. And so back to what I was saying, that how much it would cost to really fiber for everybody in not in McHenry County, but everybody nationwide is $60 billion. $60 billion is not a lot of money.
How much is that little chunk of wall that they built for Trump? How much did that cost? I saw a news article about that. I'm going to look that up and just to compare it. Go ahead.
And so you start to think about, well, you know, so you got the Department of Defense is pulling in, I don't know, you know, $600 billion a year, $700 billion a year, or whatever it is.
$1.57 billion spent for 1.7 miles of fence.
I don't even know what to say on that one.
I'm just saying we could do fiber instead.
We could do a lot more things with that money.
Let's do fiber instead.
And so, and the thing you really don't want to do is you don't want to, and there's been some indication that with the recent Connect America funds, which is basically, hey, for underserved areas, we're going to give you government money, but you're going to have to, it was an auction, you know, like, hey, underserved areas. There was only a handful of places that actually got funding through this fund here in Illinois, period. Nobody in McHenry got it because we're well served according to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC.
Which does fuzzy math on top of it.
They really do. Like, for example, there's nationwide, the FCC says only 23 or 24 million people don't have access to broadband. However, Microsoft still did a little bit of a study, and they were confirmed with Akamai that it's probably of the order of 150 million people don't have access to broadband. And I've been doing some of a little bit of looking at statistics and looking at people with school-age children and looking at people in poverty and stuff like that. So, like, for example, here in the city of not here in the city of Woodstock, but in the city of Woodstock, the median household income is somewhere around $57,000 that $57,000 per year. So if that's the medium, and they're saying that most households that are under, I think it was 75,000, 30 to 40% don't actually have broadband in their house. And if you get even down into the 20s, it's up to half. So there's some, I don't have the exact statistics, and that's something we really want to get a little bit of information on. But I really theorize that probably half of our population here in McHenry County either doesn't have access to it, or I think it's more likely they just can't really afford it to pay the high prices to get the things they need to get to be successful.
Yeah, no, and FCC's fuzziness, as I was talking about, comes down to if you've got one house within, what is it, like 1 square mile? Or
It's based on what is called census blocks.
yeah, so it is a census block. One house in a census block has access to high-speed internet. Doesn't matter if all the rest of the houses in that census block actually have it or not, they're counted as having it.
But they actually don't verify that data. That's the really interesting thing about this broadband map data that the FCC has. It's all self-reported information.
Yeah, they're going off of whatever Verizon's telling them that they're giving you.
Exactly.
Or AT&T or whoever.
And they're not verifying it either. They've never verified that data.
Wasn't there an instance recently where one company just put a whole bunch of blocks that they said that they serviced, and there wasn't anything there at all?
That is very true, and that's why the Microsoft study on this broadband thing is really important. It's probably the order of magnitude that it's 20 to 30 points off what the FCC is offering, and they've been criticized really heavily by Congress for it, for that, but also the FCC, with its current chairman,
Ajit Pai,
is just really inept. He's wholly inept.
He is.
He's wholly inept
and dismissive of anybody's concerns.
Well,
he's very
he's a
cocky,
lawyer.
very cocky. And no, actually, he's a former lobbyist for Comcast.
He was a former lawyer for Verizon, if I remember right.
I thought it was a former lobby. I'll double check.
I think the lawyer for Verizon is a lot more accurate.
Who will Google it first? I'll let him do it.
But nonetheless, there's been a number of complaints by Congress on that, and there's been a lot of senators, I think even our own senators like Durbin and Duckworth have voiced concerns about that. Because, if you have bad data, you can't actually solve the problem, which is why Internet Freedom from McHenry County is on the verge, and I say this on the verge, but we're working on getting a broadband study together.
He was a lawyer for Verizon.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're going to be in the public space and you're not going to try to represent everybody,
when you're in a public office and you're not representing the public,
that's problematic, isn't it?
that's the word then. All right. Anyway, let's move on a little bit here. I want to go on to the naysayers that say, "No, we can't do it." That's okay. How many community-owned or governmental-owned fiber networks are there in Illinois?
I'm aware of a handful of them. The Rock Falls comes to immediately mind because they're fairly recent on the block on this. Rock Falls, which is a little bit west of Dixon, Illinois, off I think I-80. They're implementing fiber right now as we speak. They're doing a little bit of a. They actually have their own municipal electric company, because the for-profit companies didn't want to provide electricity at the time when they did, so they went and did their own. And so they're trying to run fiber for all their businesses, and they're going to do all their businesses. And their model is based on what is called demand-based growth. So what that means is that when a fiberhood gets to certain signups, say, hey, I want fiber to my house, they'll go ahead and build it. I think it's usually about 40% of the neighborhood wants to have it sign up, and they'll go ahead and build it out. And what that does is that when you get enough sign-ups, is it actually causes you to be able to secure funding, bonding, so you can actually bond against that revenue. And so that's. But there's also Highland, Illinois, down in near St. Louis. Oh, no, sorry, St. Louis.
I am going to have to give you a little bit of crap right there.
Sure.
Did you just pronounce the S?
Yeah, he's from Indiana, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Illinois. Sorry. Old habits die hard.
Yeah, that's right. Good movie. All right, so we got Rock Falls, we got Highland. Yeah, I've actually been to Highland. That's over there by St. Louis.
Champaign-Urbana has it.
Carbondale, right? That's another one.
I'm not particularly familiar with them. But
I think Carbondale does, but yeah.
There is a handful. But there's also Kane County that does have some fiber down there, but it's not really for anybody except the businesses that want to pay that high price that we were talking about for Woodstock.
So I mean, if these smaller rural areas can do it, they're like the one out by Dixon and that. There's absolutely no reason that we can't do it, is basically what you're saying.
Well, there's nothing in Illinois that restricts from municipalities doing this type of thing. That's why Rock Falls is doing it. There's actually nothing stopping the townships even doing it either. So I like to talk about, I'm aware of one township that is rolling out fiber to their residents right now, and it's Linden Township in Michigan, which is in the Waterloo Recreation Area. It's west of Ann Arbor. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. They only have like 2,100 residents, and it's regular 36 square mile township. And they rolled out fiber for all their residents too. So there's no reason why here in McHenry County we can't do it by township for all the rural folks, and have the municipalities take care of their own, and it just goes township by township, municipality by municipality.
And just have interlinks between them.
And that's the way I envision it happening. And the reason for that is because I've actually had some conversations with some county board members where they were not comfortable with it being a county-wide initiative. They just were not comfortable with that.
That seems like a silly thing to not be comfortable with.
Right, because I'd be rather more comfortable with the county running it than every single municipality, whether or not they have to get on board. And you get one municipality in the middle, it's like, no, I ain't going to do this. And then you got to reroute all the way around one.
Well, not only that, but unified planning as well from the county level, from county border to county border to county border to county border. A unified plan across the board, making sure it's nice, neat, and clean, and hits everybody.
Yeah. And it would make a lot more sense to do that. And actually, that is a problem that happened with RS Fiber, which is in Renville, Shelby County, Minnesota.
Minnesota, eh?
It's the middle of nowhere. It's southwest of Minneapolis, and it's a very rural two-area county. And now their biggest cities are like 2,000-3,000 people, and they're rolling out fiber for some of the smaller places that have like a couple hundred people and a small little town and everything else. And so there was one particular city that just said, nope. Their biggest city said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not interested. And so they literally are building the fiber around the city and not hooking up anybody because their residents didn't want to do it. Now, I was talking to some people from there, and I was like, well, why, what's the fallback on this? What's the fallout from it? Because the residents they were really angry, really upset that their council decided not to do this. But with a population of 2,300 people, I don't know if anybody's involved in local politics here, but anybody that's listening, but when you start to get to a population that low, it's hard to find volunteers that want to run for city council. And so the fallback on this, or the blowback on this, hasn't been that much. And so, they're kind of ticked off and they want to do something about it. But the people that are involved, the elected officials, don't want to do anything about it. So.
Well, Yeah, I think we definitely need to as well kind of revisit the county level and beat them up a little bit, because it seems ridiculous that they're not comfortable with it being a county project.
Well, and you know what? Even if the county just makes the plan, and says, if you're going to do this is the way you have to do it.
Well, and
But you don't have to do, you know what I mean? People,
the county can even do intergovernmental agreements with the municipalities and the townships in order to secure, that they get some skin in the game as well, some funding from them,
right,
in order to
help bond them out or whatever they got to do
right.
to get it. Yeah.
There's tons of different things. Like you'll see discussions for intergovernmental agreements between different fire districts and townships in order to put up a friggin' tornado siren.
Or buying salt.
Yeah. Yeah, buying salt but tornado. There was a huge thing, like a huge debate about getting into an intergovernmental agreement in McHenry Township with the fire district to put up a tornado siren. You're like, it's a friggin' tornado siren. We're talking about a life safety situation here. I don't see why this needs an hour and a half of conversation.
And I would believe that could fall in the fire department or police department.
Well, they were looking for additional funding from the township, and since the district overlaps with the township, they were looking to get additional funding to get better sirens.
Okay.
Let's
so
do it.
So it was like one of the ones in Johnsburg or something that was looking to get one that's okay.
Right.
I get it.
So because the siren's broadcast range would overlap with the town,
Yeah, with the other one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean.
Right. So, but you see so many of these they're penny wise, pound foolish decisions at these townships and village levels. Not to mention the county board as well, but that you look at them and you're like, this is really where you're going to die. This is the hill you're going to die on. This is where we're going to have an argument. This is a life safety thing.
The last stand.
Yeah, or in the case of fiber, this is something that can greatly improve the county, the lives of the residents of the county, the businesses of the county, the tax base of the county. There is no downside here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the future, and either get on board now or get left behind.
And that's a real risk that McHenry County really has, is the what is called the opportunity cost, which is the cost of doing nothing. We really can be left behind because there are counties that we're in competition with of trying to attract businesses and attract people here and everything else. Those other counties are invested in that.
Lake County is going to be number one of them.
Yeah, Lake County's going to be, and we actually, according to the most recent census estimates, we've lost population in this county.
Oh, yeah.
We used to be the fastest growing county in the country,
mm-hmm.
and we've lost population.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will say all kinds of different things, but I say, why not entice people to stay or get their kids to stay here?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have fiber and you have good connectivity, then the kids are going to want to stay here. Whoever. I mean, I'm talking like I'm an old man, but I'm only 36.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
But nonetheless,
with your fancy fiber.
I want great connectivity, and one thing that if the generation that is that's been before me, like the boomers, if they want better internet, they want something better too.
That's because they want their life alerts to pick up right away.
Right. That is, and it does come into play with stuff like that. That is life safety stuff.
Mm-hmm. It incredibly does, and that's one of the other things that we've discussed in our meetings, which is I would like to see not only just access. Access is just like, hey, if I pay for it, I can have it. I actually would like to see basically minimum basic service, period. So, like, for example, we've discussed possibly offering 5 meg. If the network to be built, that every resident gets 5 megabits a second, because that's the part of the deal. That everybody should have basic service, even if it's 5 megabits, which you can do okay with 5 megabits. I mean, you could watch some YouTube video, but it's not adequate for an entire family. But it's adequate for you to run your life alert or video chat that you want to do, or even watch, listen to music over the internet. Because a lot of the a lot of radio is going internet, and there's some really great internet radio out there. There's podcasts and everything else that are free.
Hey, that's us.
What? Where?
Yeah,
That's us.
Oh. Yeah. So you're saying this will help out?
Maybe.
Maybe we should make some money off of this.
Monetization?
Oh,
monetization.
Where?
Hmm?
Anyway,
And so that's something we I think that should be essential. There was the one county that was near that Linden Township county that I was talking about. They tried to pitch it that way. They were like, hey, why don't we do this fiber, but everybody gets minimum service. And at 5 megabits, it's not a big consumption base. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do it that way.
well, not only that, but I mean, you could definitely divide and conquer that amongst all the different companies that you would then get let have access to that fiber. If you want to play on our fiber, if you want to play on our field, you, as part of the contract, you are responsible for this geographic area's 5 megabit basic connection.
Mm-hmm.
And in return, you get to use this fiber and get the possibility and access to monetize faster speeds from anyone in the county.
And that's an option. That's certainly an option as well. It's never been done anywhere in the country yet. This basic service. There's been like free Wi-Fi. I mean, free Wi-Fi is very popular.
Google did that when they did the Google Fiber thing.
Yeah.
If you signed on, if your neighborhood signed on and got the basic got to have the Google Fiber installed in your neighborhood, everybody in that neighborhood got a basic 5 meg.
Right, and there's I think it was 100 meg though, wasn't it?
It was either 5 or 10. I don't think it was 100.
And I think 100 was their opening, like the first, like the highest or the lowest paid tier. I think was 100 meg.
Okay.
So, that Google did that. I mean, granted, that was them laying the fiber, them having ownership of the network, and that was their own decision to do it like that. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't contract-wise say, you want access to it, this is one of the terms of access.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, to make sure that the costs are covered. So like those modems, those whatever you want to call them, they do cost money, and so there could be a way to cover the. Maybe they still have to cover the cost of that. I don't know. This isn't a done deal. This is all just like brainstorming. Like, how do we achieve everybody to get connectivity? So, like the parents can sign up for District 200's school. That's something that I was reading not recently, but District 200 offers online registration. So you don't have to go in. You don't have to go in at a particular time and take time off work to be there by 4 o'clock or whatever it is when the school's open. You can do it online.
Mine does. Yeah, my kids does online registration too.
I don't have kids. But
Yes,
you know what?
do. You have a 4-legged kid.
But you know what? Here's the important thing about the social contract. I support that. Let's pay for it. Let's get it done. Let's get these. I don't have any kids, but I have a vested interest in educated kids running the country, because when I get old, they're going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and that's all the purpose of why we educate kids that aren't ours, and so that when the day does come, they're educated enough not to kill us, and also wipe our ass really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I've got a wide ass, so they're going to need a lot of training. Oh, well, I think we're approaching up on one hour. Is there anything that we've missed? We got about 3 minutes left.
Well, you tell me.
Is there anything that we haven't hit that you wanted to hit?
It's just to finalize. One, please sign up on our website for our newsletter. More likely, the better way is to sign up and like our page on Facebook. We are going to be putting together a broadband survey. We've been drafting and testing a broadband survey to try to get that done. That broadband survey is really critical for actually getting data to make the case for the fiber, because our elected officials right now are not convinced that this is anything they can do anything about, that there's not a demand for it, that it's not needed. But if you get to essentially vote, not vote for tax increase, but basically vote and say, yes, I want something better, I want more competition, I want better connectivity and cheaper, faster internet. I want that because we could possibly save a couple $100 a year per household, and that's incredible. I mean, a couple $100 allows you to go to the Dells, take your family to the Dells, and that's a really great experience to be able to offer your kids.
Or pay for that dental care you need.
I do love going to the Dells. House on the Rock, the best place ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't say ever, but
No, best place in the Dells ever.
the Ripley's Museum was pretty cool.
House on the Rock, man. House on the Rock.
I'm not saying it's not cool,
Right.
but
So please do approach us. We need more of just the 5 of us that are involved in this. At some point we will need some donations to do some things. Please help us. We need your help.
Please help.
there are events tab also on the webpage, ifmc.co. I believe the next one is going to be in June.
And if you sign up, you get involved in our super secret chat room, which has its own meme group.
Yeah,
we
got
got
our own
memes.
memes. Yep. We are mad with memes.
So, I mean, if you want access to our own super secret meme stash, you go on there, you sign up, you help us out, and you get access to the treasure trove.
And some of the needs we do have is that we do need some help with the marketing side, like web development. We need basic people that'd be willing to talk to our elected officials in their own area, and you can get a name tag for that and everything else, business cards. We're a full-fledged type outfit that we're trying to make this happen, and so we can't do it without you. So please come talk to us, and we'd be glad to see where you can fit in.
And believe me, he accepted me as a volunteer. He can accept you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your skills are. If your skills are sitting at home writing up posts for Facebook, or just even sharing those posts, if you've got a loud mouth like me and you just talk to anybody, we got something for you to do. If you've got some skills in web development, or even just budding skills in web development, I'm sure.
Or letter to the editors. That's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Op-eds. This is a full-fledged grassroots operation, and so we need help in a lot of areas.
So pretty much sign up, tell us what you can do, and we'll put you to use.
And if you don't know what you can do, we'll find something for you to do.
Yeah, we'll work that out. So.
All right. Well, thank you for coming out and talking to us for the second time. This one will make it, I promise.
Well, thank you so much for having us, and appreciate getting the word out. So thank you so much, guys.
All right, and I'm Mike Toller.
I'm Brett Bader.
And this was Don't Panic, McHenry County, Season 2. 2. More to come.